Constantine thinks Robotboy on vacation. Robots don't take vacations, you incompetent— Oh!
Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Filling in the Blanks in a good while. Or if you're a first-timer, welcome! This series focuses on me giving reviews to cartoons I've taken interest in, but I don't see much else of it online. I'm here to bring you the good, the bad, and general info, of course. Let's get started.
System on! Activate high-tech ear protectors! Excellent!
Robotboy is a European television show that aired on Cartoon Network from 2005 to 2008. It is a total of 2 seasons with 26 episodes each. It focuses on the titular character, who lives with Tommy Turnbull after his creator, Professor Moshimo, reads a letter asking him about his latest invention. Afraid that Robotboy will fall into the wrong hands, he sends him over to Tommy for safety and the opportunity of learning to become a true boy. The series follows an episodic format and has sprinkles of continuity here and there, but nothing too big ever comes out of it besides recurring antagonists. The main antagonist happens to be Dr. Kamikaze. Yep, that's his name alright. He is an irritable, cunning old man who excels at building machines and creating armies of anthropomorphic animals. He's almost always spying on Ro and his friends thanks to his abundance of cameras set up around the city. Creep. These two qualities cause him to have some of the funniest lines throughout the series, and a recurring funny villain is definitely something I can get behind.
I can't say it on television, but I'll do something pretty evil to the boy. Pretty evil.
He and his adopted son Constantine are after Robotboy because he wants to build an unstoppable army and take over the world. And why does he want to do that? Because why not? This is more Kamikaze's plan, as Constantine isn't such a bad dude and feels the need to serve him as a way of returning the favor for adopting him. Although sometimes, Kamikaze forces him in on his plans or else he will return him to the orphanage. Now that's evil. But what about the main protagonists? Those would be Robotboy, Tommy, Lola, and Gus. Ro is a sentient high-tech robot with a heck of a lot of capabilities to boot, his most prominent abilities being flight, hand-to-hand combat, and pulling out various weapons. He has 3 modes: powered down, powered up, and super activated. All of these usually appear once per episode. Although he's usually friendly and cheerful, he has been known to sense evil and act on his own accord. Robotboy speaks in third person, only speaks a few or more words at a time.
Tommy, best friend.
I don't mind that at all, but it begs the question of if his speech programming was a last-second thought. Tommy is Robotboy's best friend and roommate. In addition, he serves as a mentor and caretaker who does his best with introducing new concepts to Ro and fixing him up when need be. He's mostly into robotics and also enjoys Human Fist, a popular in-universe superhero franchise. Tommy is usually the most rational of his friend group, but can fall to being in love with Bambi. Also, he's totally not my character Carter. He's a reference to a different character. Tommy's a good kid, and if he had been writing to Moshimo for years, it's no wonder he entrusted him with Ro. Lola is the secondary brains of the group and can be pretty sensible. Even though she's a kid, she can drive! Talk about getting a head start in life. This trait may stem from the fact that her father's a rich ambassador from Africa and has many vehicles. She also has a crush on Tommy, but this isn't shown as much later on. I really enjoyed Lola throughout the series. She felt pretty balanced in the roles placed upon her. Gus. Oh my god, Gus. He's one of those characters that makes me question how he's friends with everyone else. As a majority of the time, he hinders more than helps, is self-centered,
Yeah, but the G-Man needs his strength.
gross, and annoying.
Oh, was there food in your hair? No! Oh.
He does get his moments, but they're few and far between. If I could make a hunch as to how he's friends with Tommy, Ro, and Lola, perhaps he's drawn to their lives considering his family is Amish. He's also susceptible to getting comeuppance from time to time. I did find Gus calling himself the G-Man funny, though. There's something about characters hyping themselves up with their own nicknames that tickles my fancy. As for minor characters, there's Tommy's parents and his brother Donnie, along with Professor Moshimo himself, Mew Mew, his fiancée, Bambi, and Vance Cosgrove. There's also minor antagonists, but due to their status, I wanted to give them their own section. Bjorn Bjornsson is a kid much like Tommy and his friends, but his goal is to destroy Robotboy so his robot Bjornbot can be the most powerful robots in the world! I love large ham villains, so you can bet I enjoyed every moment of them on screen. The icing on the cake is, Bjornbot has limited vocabulary like Robotboy and usually only says, "Ya!" Kurt and his friends are bullies that usually get their kicks from being instigators. Considering Bambi is his girlfriend, he can be seen as a rival for Tommy.
Did you hear that? He called me stupid and you ugly.
Oh, he called you ugly, stupid?
Why, you little...
His dad works for the government and wants to secure Robotboy for government purposes. I think they're pretty serviceable in the antagonist department. Felonious Hex is a villain purely out of getting revenge on Gus, who heckled him at one of his magic shows. See what I said about Gus being more harm than help? I found him to be a nice breath of air who added even more variety to the villain roster, considering his motive doesn't involve Robotboy at all and throws magic into the sci-fi mix. Klaus Van Affenkugel has a condition that makes him incredibly short and weak, which made him receive ridicule at a young age until now. He seeks Robotboy in order to take his limbs and use them as prosthetics. His caretaker and best friend is an orangutan named Ludwig, who usually carries him around. They're an interesting pair bound together by common ground, as Ludwig is missing from the zoo and thus another odd one out. Brainiac was originally the dumbest yak on the farm that Moshimo used to manage in his younger years, and his owner couldn't stand the other yaks making fun of him. To resolve this issue, Moshimo learned how to do brain surgery and gave him a new brain. Now he was smart, and now he knew the yaks were making fun of him. Moshimo saw this as no problem, and also sees no problem with Brainiac wanting to destroy him.
Revenge will be mine! Oh! Get in the bus, Buckethead! Your mama wants you!
Lastly, Protoboy is technically Robotboy's older brother, who was violent even before Kamikaze had stolen and reprogrammed him to become evil. Too evil. Much like Brainiac, he's on the hunt for Moshimo as well. So, knowing all this info, how do I feel about this series? Let's start with the good first. Tommy and Ro get along together very well, and their arguments feel within reason. Robotboy listening to Tommy's advice and using it to his advantage goes to show that he deeply cares about what his friend has to say. Lola's crush on Tommy did not feel forceful in the slightest. If anything, I was rooting for her to get with him because he deserves a girl that actually pays attention to and cares about him. Constantine has quite the position, not being downright evil like Kamikaze, but supporting him when need be. I'd really like to see more characters like him. It's only so often I see a character who's good, but in a bad place. There's variation in the episode. Sometimes it's Kamikaze trying to get the jump on Tommy and Co. Other times it's a different antagonist. And even Ro and his friends getting up to more down-to-earth activities. This is the kind of variety any episodic show needs to keep you on your toes. But what takes the iced cake from earlier? The action! It is wonderful to watch and absolutely badass every time! I know that as soon as the super activate sequence happens, something's about to go down and I'm gonna love every second of it. My favorite episodes of Robotboy have to be Cleaning Day, Chop, Christmas Evil, Runaway Robot, and Something About Stevie. I'd love to talk about them if you guys would like me to. But now for the bad. Robotboy was giving the Tommy an order for him to have safety and a place to learn to be a true boy. So by default, that'd mean he have a safe place where he could be himself, right? Wrong. Ro is usually restricted to roaming around Tommy's room, and even then he shuts him off when he's going to school, because no one is allowed to know about him. It's like unwrapping a gift, but then said gift still has more tough packaging to get through. On top of that, keeping him secret hardly seems like a problem outside, since more often than not the streets are empty with the exception of a few cars. Heck, there was a robot convention in one episode, and no one seemed to mind. If it was so important to keep Ro a secret, then more emphasis should have been placed on that aspect. I'm not expecting some deep characters from an episodic series, but that's no excuse for some of them to be one note either. Donnie was at least logical in the first episode, Dogra, where he has a point in saying that in order to decide who the puppy belongs to, the puppy should choose.
Why don't you let the dog decide? Hey, dog! You want to live here where it doesn't suck? Or over at Gus's medieval manor?
This treat is quickly thrown out of the window, and he becomes a total meathead that resorts to violence every chance he gets. It's to the point that Tommy's the bigger sibling of the two, caring about Donnie despite the way that he pushes him around. Their dad, Dwight, isn't walking any better, as he pushes Tommy into physical activities every opportunity he gets, since he has a hard time picking up on cues. And his wife, Debbie, is the type of mother that will nag up a storm on a bad day, but will otherwise be pretty reasonable, and that's all that there is to her. There's part of me who wanted them to be more involved than the focus that they got. Imagine how much more free Ro would be if he was a true part of Tommy's family, instead of Tommy having to hide him from them as well. He'd get to know how it feels to be a brother instead of watching from the sidelines. Mild continuity can work in an episodic show, but 3 times that it's used here are confusing messes that get no conclusion. Robot Girl could have been a one-off episode like Robot Man, but instead her next appearance is one of the last episodes of the series and she gets amnesia. On top of that, Proto Boy ends up getting reduced to nothing but one part and manages to rebuild himself. Even Zero for Mega Man X wasn't just a fool when he repaired himself. I'm not buying this baloney! Brainiac keeps vowing to destroy Moshimo, but that's all we get. His last appearance has him boasting that he has the right to destroy Moshimo. Perhaps they were planning to have another season and it never happened? I can only wonder. Robot Boy is meant to be a high-tech robot, but his source of power is batteries? Batteries that get lost and he powers down. They seem to be rechargeable, but what about giving him a rechargeable battery instead, like one of those bricks? It's not like those weren't a thing in 2005. The Game Boy Advance SP were released 2 years prior, and even earlier, Sega released a rechargeable battery pack for the Game Gear. What's your excuse, Moshimo? Last second choice again? This isn't bad per se, just a nitpick that leaves me scratching my head. One other thing before I get to my final verdict that also isn't bad, but I feel needs to be addressed. If there's anything I noticed often when looking at comments for Robot Boy, a handful of people said that was a ripoff of My Life as a Teenage Robot. Who could blame them? Ro and XJ9 both have a silver and turquoise aesthetic, and both cartoons aired around the same years. They also have a similar premise of a robot discovering their humanity and learning to live in society while combating evil. My stance? There isn't enough evidence. Just because similar concepts were released near each other doesn't mean one rips off the other. Give them both a shot and come to your own conclusion. Oh, and one other thing, I gotta refresh my memory, but from what I remember, I loved My Life as a Teenage Robot.
Like the music!
Yes, master.
As for Robot Boy, I mostly enjoyed the series. It has some wholesome and funny moments, is action-packed, and holds quite the cast of characters. It's not perfect, but then again, nothing is. Perfection is in the eye of the beholder. If you want to watch it, a Saint uploaded all episodes to YouTube in numerical order. Link will be in the description below. I don't recommend watching it all in one sitting though. A lot of the details can end up getting meshed together, and Ro's Super Activate sequence now lives in my head rent-free. Thanks for watching. I hope my video was informative and encouraged you to check out this show. Next time on Filling in the Blanks, I will be covering Apple and Onion. Stay tuned!
What up, homies?
You look fine.
The color's all wrong, dude. It doesn't complement my skin tone.
Gus, would you shut up?